Yo, 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 what's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are ya?
I'm doing all right.
You doing all right?
Yeah.
You all right, Spider?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
You ain't hopping along, Cassie, on that 1 foot? You never
I
seen.
don't know what
you
you're
don't
talking
remember
about.
Goodfellas, do you, at all?
Oh, yeah, I do, but I don't remember that.
Hey, everybody out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show, and we're about to get normal. And we got a special doink from a friend that we met at the Little Bean Farmers Market, and this was given to me by Midwest Terps. And thank you very much, Midwest Terps. I really appreciate it. And it is called Cherry Tree Number Tree, and it's Trop Cherry and Animal Tree number 13. It was bred by Grownmore Fire Genetics and hunted and selected by Midwest Terps. And he had a table at the Little Bean Farmers Market, which their next one I think is Sunday, February. Let's see here. Let me check my calendar. Sunday, February 25th, I believe, is their next one. You can check out Midwest Terps there and buy some of his grow. We're excited. It's the first time I'm smoking his stuff. And as I always said, if you give me a nug or a joint, we're going to smoke it on the show and throw you out a shout out. So I appreciate it, Midwest Terps, for this beautiful strain. And it smelled really nice when we took it out. It smelled like a cross between cherries and sweetness and tangerine-ish, and just, if that's even just a word, it has a lot. Ooh, that was a big cloud, Mrs. Weedman. Woo-woo! Mrs. Weedman.
Cheers.
Mrs. Weedman starting the show off right. I love it.
My taste buds absolutely suck today. For anyone who maybe is just tuning in for the first time, I take a medication that affects my taste. So my taste buds are super duper hit or miss, and I can taste that cherry. That's nice.
Now, I read that this cherry, I don't know if it's the exact strain that he has, but it is a sativa-leaning strain, about 60-40, 70-30. It is a heavy hitter, smooth high. Don't have any other more information about it. I apologize. But if I ever find out more or get more of this, I will look into it some more, but this is all I found. So we had a very fun Sunday, didn't we?
We sure did.
Where were we this Sunday, Mrs. Weedman?
This past Sunday, we were at the Brunch of Stoners, and so that is a brunch for stoners. It's a private event that's hosted by Felix and Elena and their crew of people. It's held in the city, and it is a full-on brunch. It's a Sunday brunch with lots of consumption. And so we are hosting the
Smoke tent
for the entire year. And so this was our first run at it. It's a huge tent. It's 20 by 40 feet. And my decorations.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, you can.
Fucking banged it.
Yeah,
it was a banger.
in my
of a
brain,
tent.
it's not quite there.
Well, it was our first
Yeah,
one.
I know.
Knowing you, and I've been married to you for almost 30 years, knowing you evolve stuff. Mm-hmm. So you did the first one. You had a vision. You saw it come together. And now you're going to evolve it to the next stage. And we had a lot of help.
Oh, my God. The help was amazing.
Yes.
I am an absolute terrible delegator. I'm an adult of childhood trauma. I say that and laugh. It's not really funny. But anyway, I just can't delegate. I don't know how. I'm a creative, and what's in my brain, I just can never quite express. I don't know that other people can get my vision, right? So I have a really hard time delegating. So we get there, and we've got X amount of time to set up this gigantic tent. I have decorations, and I know they're not going to go far once we get inside that tent. But I need to set the pace, right, so that I can build on it. And these people, these helpers that
Volunteers.
Yeah, I think they are all volunteers.
Some of them are volunteers, I think. Yep.
They were phenomenal. I explained to them, I'm like, just like I said, I don't know how to delegate. So I'm going to try my best to give you a brief of what I'm trying to achieve here and what I have. These people stepped in and fucking cranked. They were amazing. So we got it all knocked out. We actually had 40 minutes to spare. Mm-hmm. We were able to sit down, drink a cup of coffee before everything got started.
And Mr. Weedman was grinding weed and starting to stuff a little early.
Yeah,
stuff
he was
some
getting
joints.
prepared. So how it works is when you come in, there's VIPs and then there's just regular entries. And food doesn't happen right away. There's activities, there's stations, and you get a punch card. And the punch card tells you the different stations. There's usually like 7 or 8 different stations. There are consumption stations, there are activity stations, food, drinks, all infused. Absolutely no alcohol. And so our tent was not one of the stations, but there was a student glass station where you could come in, smoke some legacy weed and on a student glass and hang out and chill out in the outdoors. And that tent was ours. So student glass was in our tent serving up legacy weed. And then we had our table in the corner with our banner so that people could get to know us and our brand. And at one point, Mr. Weedman is standing there. He's rolling joints. Like, just, if you want a joint, come on over to the table, say hi, come and meet us. We'll roll you a joint. Started out super casual like that. Maybe there was a line 2 people deep, 3 people deep, 4.
5 the most.
It started getting a little built up, and then like the last maybe hour and a half, it was across the tent.
So,
it was 30 people deep at least.
So here's the funny part. I'm stuffing, I'm talking. You know, I'm just talking to people coming by, answering questions about the show. Mrs. Weedman's doing a great job explaining 8 decades and what the brand is all about our tray set, our smoke set that's on the tables and at our little booth that we had. And I'm just stuffing it, and Mrs. Weedman comes over and she goes, "How can I help you?" I said, "What do you mean? How can nothing? Just I'm not running out of weed thanks to Legacy and thanks to our home grow, and I have plenty of that. I'm running out of fucking papers. I'm running out of cones. I'm like down to the nitty gritty." And I'd like to thank Allison for throwing whatever she had at us too. And you're cutting them in half grams because we're not stuffing full grams or more. We're just because I've got to do it quick. And all of a sudden I look up, and I look over at you. I'm like, "Is that line waiting for the the glass, the bong rips over there?" You go, "No, they're waiting for us and for you." I'm like,
they're waiting for a joint.
There's like 30, 40 people in line.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on here?
And we were kind of very heavily engaged in this conversation with these 3 women edible makers from Chicago. I never got to whether or not they work in a legal operation or traditional. Super nice women. One was 1 or 2 of them were chefs, like by trade, and it was just a great conversation. We were talking about like, what do you do with this and that and that, pop. And then I looked back because the student glass table had a line pretty steady like that throughout the whole
But then they
event.
didn't have a line anymore.
And it was kind of the same thing. Like, oh, shit. We're just like sitting here talking to these people, enjoying ourselves, and there are so many people waiting to get up to the
I look
front.
up, I'm like,
So it's like, you got to hustle.
smokes.
You got to hustle. And if people are in a group, you just got to offer a joint per group. There's no more every single person.
I think I stuffed about 100
easily.
joints, but I haven't had this
And you were
much.
grinding the weed as
I was
you
doing
went.
everything. Yeah, I was grinding fresh stuffing,
yeah.
grinding fresh
Oh my
stuffing.
God.
But when I got done, almost I had to stop for like 5 minutes and clean my fingers off because I had finger hash.
Yes, you did.
I had a shit ton of finger
The
hash.
grinder was just
Gunked. And I couldn't, every time I'd grab a paper, it would stick. I couldn't get the paper off my fingers. So I was like, "Can I get some alcohol?" You're like, "What can I do?" I'm like, "I just need some alcohol on a paper towel." It took 5 minutes, clean my hands off, clean the grinder on the sides off because it was getting gunky on the sides. If somebody can come up with a grinder that doesn't gunk, send Mr. Weedman one. I'll plug the hell out of you. All right? Send me a grinder that doesn't gunk.
Well, I think that's just the nature of the beast, and you just got to clean your thing.
I probably...
Or have a backup when you're doing that.
I need like to bring 2 extra backups.
Yeah.
I actually probably... I grinded at least probably 2 ounces of weed.
Easily. It was a nonstop
maybe more
operation.
One person who we see a lot at a lot of the events kept on coming to the tent and looking over me. Still working hard.
He just shake his head. Of course you're still going.
And then he came back like 30 minutes later.
Like,
he comes back 30 minutes later. He's like, "You're even working harder now," because he saw that line. I looked at him and gave him a wink and a smile, and I was just like, hardest working guy in the place right now. I'm like,
that was pretty funny.
It was fun though, because people coming to the table, telling us stories, picking up some stickers, talking, asking you what 8 decades was all about. Our podcast, the Grow Hour, just people we've seen at a lot of events, talking to us. The it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And on that note, it's really interesting how many people want to learn about cannabis.
Education is so
like, it just started
key.
off with talking about the brand name of 8 decades.
Right.
Well, like, nobody really, probably 9 out of 10 people had no idea that cannabis was in prohibition for 8 decades.
Yeah, I had the 8-decade shirt on. I was showing people the
like, people
what's in
just
the
haven't
back.
done the math or really spent the time really thinking about it. They just know that it was illegal. I mean, who, like...
Right. Nobody knows who
if it's
Harry
not-
Aslinger is.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that it was banned in 1937, the marijuana. They don't know.
They don't know.
Right.
So we explain, the story behind creating the 8 decades logo, and everything is very intentional. The letters are not capitalized because it is 8 decades, and it's not something that we need to emphasize. It's just it's annoyance, it's frustration, it's backwards. So it's not. We don't want to boast about it. It's just 8 decades, matter of fact, period at the end, because there cannot be a 9th.
Right.
There just can't. And at the pace things are going, there shouldn't be. People are getting on board with it. But it was just really fun to engage in all the different conversations and people's different levels of, there were obviously a lot of people that were more well-versed and more educated in cannabis than we are. And there's people that are less, and there's everything in between. And it's just fun because everybody likes to swap the knowledge and share, and you learn something, you question something, it's all fun. And in the meantime, we had like a 50-degree freaking day in Chicago.
It's gorgeous out.
Crystal blue skies. Oh my God, no wind. It was just this beautiful,
Gorgeous.
sunny Chicago
And everybody was
day.
happy.
And everybody was just happy.
Just
People were
happy.
outside.
Yeah.
We were in a tent.
Yes.
In February in
Heated,
Chicago.
but you didn't need it really to be heated.
Yeah.
It was perfect because that
was so
sun
nice.
beating on the tent was keeping the tent nice and warm. But it was just a cool, chill atmosphere. You went and got a plate of food. I never got a chance to eat any of it. I
No,
had a
we
piece of
never ate it.
bacon.
We ate some fruit.
I had and a piece of fruit, a grape, and a piece of bacon, and then I was right back to going again. I remember you said, "Are you going to ever stop?" I'm like, "Nope,
Nope.
not until the last
I'm
joint
like,
is
you can
filled.
take a break.
Not until the last joint is filled.
You're not on the punch card.
It didn't matter.
Right.
I'm here to serve. I'm here to help people. I'm here to. I mean, I always say, what kind of weed man would I be if I don't give people weed?
That's right.
Right? You're coming to meet the weed man. You're coming to hang out and smoke with the weed man. I can't outsmoke anybody, but boy, oh boy, I'm going to give you some fucking weed. I remember there was a couple, I skipped them like 3 times. I don't know why, because a volunteer would come up, I'd give them a joint. They were right in front of me, and they were waiting. And I said, I got you next. I rolled 3 joints for 3 people. They were next. 3 volunteers came up, and I handed them each a joint, and I looked at them like, I'm so sorry, but here's the biggest, fattest nug in this jar you can have. And I just watched their face. I'm like, here's a joint that I owed you, but here's a fat nug. And I just put it in, I don't know if it was the husband's hands. I couldn't remember because I was still kind of looking down,
Right.
and put it in their hand. And the smile was there. First, they were like, whoa. And then they were like, holy shit, you're giving this to us? I'm like, take it.
Yeah.
I apologize for passing you up 3 times. But it was so much fun. I enjoy the hell out of doing that. Like, you don't even understand.
I just came to this like brief realization that maybe you shouldn't be dressed up as a superhero. You should be dressed up as a green Care Bear with a big jar of weed.
With a big weed lift on a.
Is there one?
Yeah, there's
Is there
one. There was a face.
That-
Someone drew it up years
Yeah.
ago after the Care Bears. I mean, I remember people wearing shirts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, I 420's coming up. Their next event is in April, right?
Mm-hmm.
I might have to wear the costume.
You might have to be.
Weed man might have to come out for that
Oh,
one.
boy.
just to sit and roll joints in that
Felix,
costume.
Alana, if you're listening, feel free to text me. No costume. No costume. I'll take care of it.
You should be proud of that costume.
I am proud of the costume.
You made
but-
it. You made my superhero costume, just like the original Spider-Man costume was made by him and his grandma. You made it for me. And now it's my face on when you call me.
But sometimes the thing has run its course.
Yeah, it's true. It's got to come out at least once a year, though.
Yeah.
Once a year.
We'll see.
We'll
We'll
talk
see.
about it.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
You ready to get the show started?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes,
All
I
right.
am.
So before I start talking about these articles and going all over this, there's been some shiznizzle and the bezizzle and the hizizzle in the cannabis world right now.
Yeah.
So much shit. Like, I was working on this episode last night, and then we recorded with Big Earl for the Grow Hour too. So between working on 2 shows from Friday to Tuesday, so much has happened. First things first. Off the carts, CFO. The CFO was caught on camera talking about how we became successful and how we became rich. Remember this?
Oh, yeah.
You know exactly what he said?
Yep.
You
Don't pay the small ones.
Don't pay the mom and pop shops.
Yep. Take their products. Don't pay them.
Don't pay them.
They're going to fail anyway. They're going to go under.
And that's why we're so profitable in 2023. Yeah. And I was just
making
talking
money off of mom
the thing
and
that made me
fucking shitty.
The thing that made me so upset and so angry to where I would just grab this guy and literally fucking give him a pounding is because the week prior to this, on the last episode, I was talking about mom and pop businesses being the most important in the industry, and just not only just in cannabis, in every industry.
Yeah.
And you have this fucking piece of shit. Don't pay the mom and pops because they're going to go out of business anyway.
So blatant and proud of, like it was such a strategy. I made the big wins. Oh, fuck you, dude.
Allegedly, CFO Norman Yusuf said this on camera, and it was all over the internet, intranet. So off the carts, shame, CEO, just shame. You should lose all your licenses for all your dispensaries and all your whatever you do. You should lose your licenses.
People just stop buying his goods.
I mean, just like go fuck yourself, man. That is such a shitty thing to do to people, to their employees too. Don't forget that it's not just the mom and pop that owns the place. It's also all the employees they have too. So you're just slapping everybody in the cannabis industry across the face. So you don't deserve anything. You're one of those who I would just like spit on, like literally just spit on you, because that is like upsetting, but also very it angered the hell out of me when I saw this. So that was number one.
Well, I mean, that a person doing, if that was the mentality of this business, we'd be out of business. Everything we do, we are like a 2-man team here. We produce. Mr. Weedman literally produces, directs, and runs and writes this show. So that's hours in a week. He does the Grow Hour. He has a day job. We have a high energy dog who never gets tired. He has a wife who makes him nutty. And I have a day job. And I'm running 8 Decades, every aspect of 8 Decades. We're doing vendor pop-ups. We're getting organized for vendor pop-ups. I'm ordering inventory, whatever needs to be done. Banking, bookkeeping, ordering, dates, events, social
inventory.
Media, all the fucking shit, right? Like, it's just part of it.
And we do this out of a room in our house.
And then we take our time when we record together. We're doing all of it. Mr. Weedman's running the Weedman 420 Chronicles side, and I'm running the 8 Decades side from social media down, both of us. We just each take one and run with it, and the other sports the other, and it works out. And if that was how business happened and we had our 8 Decades products, that came out of our savings account to pay for every single piece of that.
Don't forget, banks didn't give it.
We don't have any bank loans, nothing.
Yeah, we have no investors either.
We saved up our pennies and we made it. We have scrambled to put things together, and we very, very carefully pick and choose where we're spending our money to make this business work, and we have to do the grind. Guerrilla marketing. If anyone's our age, they understand. This is how old businesses were built.
Yep.
Just manpower. You just got to get out there and talk and promote. So we're doing this. And what was my point?
You were talking about small business
freaking people with that mentality that fuck over the small business. You would have put us under. Like we would have done all of this in vain. It would have all just been a complete
for nothing
waste of time.
Yeah.
So please don't let that be the mentality of this marketplace.
We need to do better. Not just the cannabis industry. Humanity needs to do better.
Humans.
And stop fucking people over and people's lives. And this is why this guy, this person, this piece of shit should just lose everything. Karma's a bitch. So, I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Karma's a bitch.
Nature has a way of taking care of things.
Yes. Another thing. Bee-Leaf, a genetics company. I want to say thank you to Terp Fiend and Mac Blunts for being on Instagram Live last night talking about it. Terp did a phenomenal job, like explaining the whole thing of what's going on with B-Leaf. Basically, it's a breeding seed bank company that sells to seed banks. They also own edible company. Basically, B-Leaf does a lot in the cannabis industry, but their main thing is breeding seeds and doing collaborations and selling across to bigger, just selling across all the world. And the owner allegedly, from what I heard and read and talked about, all over. Every breeder's talking about it. Every breeder that's worked with him is dumping his stuff, the collabs. But some people are doing some good stuff, and we have a friend that we both know, I'm going to tell you in a second, are dumping everything or just trying to change. It's going to cost the industry a lot of money too, in people's pockets that did this with B-Leaf, not knowing. So basically, allegedly, he was in a relationship with a 16-year-old. I think he's in his 40s. In the state that we're in, I think you could be 16. 2 years later, it's eight. The relationship, she's 18 now, but very abusive, beatings, like that's caught on tape from what allegedly was being said. So, our friend at Go Genetics was doing a collaboration with him. So I just want to read what Go Genetics said, and I don't even want to give this person any more props. I don't even want to talk about the name anymore after this, but I do want to read what Go Genetics said, because he's good. He's a good person, and his partner's a good person. I love what they do. Phenomenal genetics. Phenomenal. Every time we see them, they've been so generous and kind and nice to us. So I'm going to read this, and he posted this on his Instagram. As some of you may know, we were working on a collaboration with B-Leaf. It is 6 months in the works and it's almost ready for release. Now, 6 months, that's a lot of time and money. Okay? Obviously, our values do not align with his. I am disgusted by his actions, and I will not be moving forward with the collaboration. We have been struggling on which way to go on this, but we have decided, instead of scrapping all of the work, we are going to release the strains independently and try to make something good come from this by using a percentage of the sales that were supposed to be his share and donate that money to the CAWC, Connections for Abused Women and Their Children.
Wow, that's awesome.
So CWAC helps ensure that survivors and their children have access to safe shelter, counseling, legal advocacy, and other critical resources for survival when they need them most. National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. And I want to say, I don't want to use his real name. I don't know if he wants me to or not, but I do want to say Go Genetics. Please follow him first on Instagram. Please donate whatever to buy his pack, so the donation goes to the CWAC or CAWC. I am so proud of him for doing that, and I will support that and him commendable. Everywhere we see him. We see him at a lot of events. He's part of our tribe. You know, the tribe of people in this Illinois community, part of the tribe across the cannabis world. You know, he's a well-known breeder and grower. He fucking grows some phenomenal and breeds some phenomenal strains. So please support his project, because 6 months in the making is not. It takes a lot of time and energy.
And for a small business, that's a lot of cost.
Yeah, small business. So support that. Check him out. Let me read his handle one more time for you. It's G.O.A.T _genetics, GENETICS. So check him out. Support him. Also check out Terp Fiend. He's been on our show on the Grow Hour 4 times. Phenomenal dude. He breeds some of the most phenomenal genetics out there also. He does a show with Mac Blunts live. So check him out on Instagram. You can follow him. I think they do a YouTube show too. But he is a phenomenal breeder also, and he's been on our show 4 times. Also, Mac Blunt's a very young, early podcaster too. For talking about this also. There's other people that have been bringing it up on shows. These are the 3 that I've knew that did this. So, but follow the 3 of them. And I want to say how proud I am of all of them for doing what they did and putting themselves out there and making sure that the right thing happens. Right?
Yeah, totally.
So,
100%.
one more thing for all of the breeders out there. Cannabis seed market projected to reach $6.5 billion by 2031. Fueled by legalization and health benefits, the cannabis seeds market size was valued at $1.3 billion in 2021 and is estimated to reach $6.5 billion by 2031, growing at a CAGR of 18.4% from 2022 to 2031. That is, and I found this on EINNEWS.com. nnews.com, I think is how it's pronounced. enews.com. That's a lot of money for all you breeders out there. $6.3 billion. If you get a quarter of a percent of that, you can make 250 grand a year and be very happy for the rest of your life by breeding good genetics. So, weed was pretty good.
It is very good.
Very nice.
You want more?
I will in a second. So, Midwest Terps, before we get started, I want to thank you again. Let's get going. Cannabis testing might need an overhaul. There's a lot of articles right now on cannabis testing. Is it legit? Are they doing the right thing? Are they getting paid to raise the levels up on the THC content because higher sells more? Yada, yada, yada. So how does cannabis testing work? Labs that test medical and adult use cannabis products are owned and operated as private businesses. Some work like small businesses, and others are supported by massive private equity fundraising, with others in between those polarities. They all work for profit, which keeps the lights on and the chromatography machines wiring. Each state decides on its own regulatory structure for cannabis, and testing labs are included. That means there is no one standard for labs between states for one things like maintaining machines, how to test certain products, and more. The question is whether the this testing method has built a system consumers can trust. Do modern testing labs have enough checkpoints that won't make mistakes, or worse, forge results to gain more customers? Not always. There will be issues leading to fine temporary shutdowns or closures in the testing space. Independent labs are not all bad, but some are. This is considered, there's some tactics in the bad ones, the pay-to-play tactics like I was talking about, so you can get the highest THC percentage shown. So some are good, though. Some are catch the stuff that's supposed to catch, and they product issues, they detect them, and they trigger them, and this isn't good. Also in California, regulators barred 20 labs from testing flower until updating operations to meet new state standards.
Wow.
So...
that has to be a good amount of labs for the state.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, how many do you think they have? 100?
Probably. Maybe more. But I would say 100 at least, because there's a shit ton of work that goes in California. So you need a lot. People need their weed and need to get it to the shelves fast. So, there's almost 1,000 dispensaries in California, 934, I think, something like that. So, how to solve the testing lab puzzle. Quality assurance certifications are one way that cannabis testing labs show consumers they operate under strict operations and ethical guidelines. Labs can be iOS IEC 17025 certified, which is the international accreditation given to those operating at a set standard. Accreditation associations can be helpful and in most cases are reputable, but leaving space for industry opens a small rip in the safe holds against those that might take advantage. The answer is the conundrum might be in-house, the state house, that is. Man, if it goes to the state, like testing, man, phew, there's going to be some major standards because it's going to be a lot of, and the state's going to charge a lot of money compared to the private companies, and they're going to tax the shit out of you too. So, yeah. So we need to do better as an industry, so we'll see what happens. Grinding your weed that I was just talking about earlier. Now,
Yeah.
if that grinder would have got so gunked and I couldn't grind anything, what would I need to do?
Well, every stoner has their own cannabis rituals, but not everyone knows how to grind weed without a grinder. There are those who prefer to roll up a joint, while some might opt for a dry herb vape. Then, of course, there are the glass art lovers who grab their bongs and bubblers. No matter how it's smoked, most of these methods require the bud to be ground up. So when stuck without their trusted grinder, what is a cannabis lover to do? Well, learn how to grind cannabis without a grinder, of course. Before getting into the surefire methods to grind your weed when the grinder is nowhere to be found, let's look at the basics of what we're doing. Grinding cannabis flowers requires some kind of edge to cut the sometimes dense, sticky bud, along with a vessel to hold it. How the weed is pulverized impacts the final product. Ground weed that is too lumpy may not burn well in a joint, but when ground too finely, it burns too quickly for rolling. This might impact which grinderless weed grinding method works for the task at hand. For example, super sharp teeth may work faster, but they also might grind more finely, which can be good or bad depending on the cannabis consumption method. Additionally, some methods require more hand dexterity or special equipment, which might alter what choice a person makes when grinding weed without a grinder. So, here are the classic and inventive ways that people have ground weed without a grinder. And before getting started, remember to always wash your hands. Fingers.
Ew.
That mention of washing hands is especially true when grinding cannabis buds with your fingers. The flower is more or less broken into small pieces than ground, but a good finger grind has gotten many spliffs or bowls lit in a pinch. Simply lay a flat surface or set up a flat surface, lay out some buds, pick the main flower, pull off the stems, set the stems aside, pull the flower apart, and break it into smaller pieces. You're ready. You can try a shot glass and scissors.
This is a new one.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory,
Yeah,
right?
but I never seen this before. I thought it was pretty dope.
So using glassware and a pair of scissors and a classic way to grind weed is a classic way to grind weed without a grinder. The method sounds simple, but requires a specific finesse to be pulled off efficiently. There's a rhythm that I can't say that word at all. There's a rhythm you'll learn over time. If it doesn't click at first, stick with it, and you'll find the right groove. Grind the weed with a shot glass and scissors. So basically, you take a little shot glass, put your stem. Oh, it says. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I should just read it. Pick the cannabis. I just totally got off on my own little tangent
Ooh,
there.
whole
Whee!
new world.
Okay. Pick the cannabis flowers from the main stem and place it in the shot glass. And then basically you stick the point of the scissors down into it and you like chop, 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 chop. And you use the width of the glass as how open and closed the scissor gets. That's it. And just do it until you get your buds to the desired size. Cannabis coffee grinder. Super simple. Most of us have a coffee bean mill or a coffee bean grinder. You can use that for your cannabis. Just know that you will most likely leave behind some sticky residue. So whatever's going in there next, if you're making coffee for work, you might get a little high or rooty tooty. So clean the blades really good, or just get a separate grinder for that. And same thing, get the stem, pull the flower off of the stem, put it in there, and bump, bump. Push the button a couple times and you're good to go. Mortar and pestle. A mortar and pestle increases the surface area compared to other methods for grinding, which makes the job quick and efficient. The setup is simple, but the process does take some wrist strength and shoulder strength. Much like the coffee grinder, be wise. When choosing a mortar and pestle, some of them are porous stone, so you'll leave behind some residue that could get on other foods. Maybe you're feeding your family, and you might not want your kids having weed at the dinner table. So maybe get a separate one for your weed. And they do also suggest trying a marble one.
But here's the
because
thing.
the marble does not capture stuff.
Here's the thing. You're not going to get high.
Yeah, because if you cook with it.
Yeah, but if you don't cook...
If you put all your herbs in a grinder that has weed in it,
yeah,
then you bake
that's
and
true.
then you make something.
True, but if it was just raw
You're
weed,
decarbing it.
if it was just raw weed
Right.
that you left in there and you grinded up some spices and stuff like that, and it was just like little residue from the raw weed, and you threw...
Eventually, they're getting cooked.
Yeah.
Just get a separate one. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying how...
If you're in a pinch,
yes,
get a Q-tip out with some alcohol afterward and clean the blade on the bottom as
there you
well
go.
as the top.
There
How
you
about
go.
that?
There you go.
There's that. The downfall of using a mortar and pestle, you could probably figure out for yourself. You're going to lose a bunch of goodies. Everything is going to, all that good stuff, the trichomes are going to be left behind. So, I don't know that I'd pick that one. A grinder card looks like a credit card. Fits in your wallet, obviously. But it's a nice little gadget. And let's see, grinder cards are the size of a credit card and outfitted with designs cut out of the middle. The cutouts serve as teeth to grind the bud, much like a cheese grater. With a clean surface, the grinder can work just about anywhere. Again, find your clean surface, take off your stems from your flower, break it into small pieces, and then you put the pieces down and the grinder card on top, and you just push and rotate, like twist, 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 and put a little pressure on it, and you will have your ground weed. And then this is an oldie. This is like a grandpa trick. A pill bottle and a coin. An empty pill bottle and a coin may work in a pinch too. This is like some old clever grandpa. The process may leave a lot of trichomes behind, but desperate times call for desperate measures. The coin essentially breaks up the bud. So you take the pill bottle, and I suggest you clean the coin, maybe. You put the coin in there, put the weed in there, and shake real aggressively, and it, knocks off all the good stuff. And you probably, again, leave a lot of it
That
behind.
one I probably wouldn't do.
Yeah. And a cheese grater, I don't know, maybe like a nutmeg grater. I don't know about a cheese grater. I think the grating might be too big. Anyway, you could try that. Again, it's a kitchen gadget, so make sure the kiddos don't use it after you do without cleaning it. And you can even use a knife and cutting board, which I've never thought of, but why not? So they just suggest don't use the cutting board that you might put raw meat on because you don't want the bacteria to get into your flower. Same thing, take the stems away, put it on your cutting board and chop, chop, chop. So these are the most tried and true ways to get the job done. No matter what you use to grind up your bud, you'll likely get high. So just enjoy the process.
There you go. There was a study, and you're going to do something next about alcohol and driving with weed too. So kind of correlates just a little bit though, because it's kind of interesting. THC bud levels is how they test, do not correlate with impairment. A recent study published that JAMA has concluded that blood THC levels do not correlate with driving behavior, highlighting the need for more nuanced impairment regulations. In a recent study published in the Journal of American Medical Association, Network Open Research have taken a closer look at the effects of cannabis on driving abilities, particularly focusing on older adults from age 65 to 79. The study was led by Patricia Day-Cano, PhD, alongside a comprehensive team of experts into the nuanced relationship between the consumption of cannabis, its impairment on driving performance, and the amount of THC found in participants' blood. In a summary, the authors noted that although the evidence suggested cannabis use could impact driving performances, blood THC levels was not correlated with driving behavior. The study participants who are regular users of high-potency THC-dominant cannabis demonstrated an increase in weaving and decrease in speed 30 minutes after consumption. However, these changes in driving performance were not directly correlated with blood THC concentrations. Impairment seemed to fade within a few hours of consumption, with the authors noting the associations between cannabis and driving were apparent at 30 minutes but not 180 minutes after smoking. Interestingly, self-reports of impaired driving persisted for 3 hours, indicating a heightened awareness among participants of the potential impairment. In response to the study, NORML released a statement calling for more sensible regulations around cannabis impairment. Druid, a mobile app produced by Impairment Science that uses neuroscience to assess the user's level of cognitive and motor impairment, according to the website, the app can be used by individuals to determine their own impairment as well as used for numerous businesses' applications. And they implemented in 2021, the Department of Public Safety in Highland Park, Texas, to track officers' fatigue levels to help determine optimal shift schedules. Considering the THC blood levels are currently used by most law enforcement agencies to determine if drivers are under the influence, the lack of clear correlation between the variable and driving performance challenges the effectiveness of these regulations and highlights the need for a more nuanced approach to determine impairment. So yours now is going to talk about marijuana use doesn't increase car crashes risk, but drinking alcohol does, study finds.
Here, smoke. I think that you were really high last week because I think what you just read, I read like a very, like maybe a rewritten version of it.
Yeah, it was similar. It was just more
but it's
studies.
Just interesting because there's, a lot of research happening right now.
Because I looked at that article too you did. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot more articles talking about this. Yeah. Which is a good thing because I've driven with a lot of people that smoke weed. and why they drive.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, they're a better driver when they're stoned than when they're not stoned. I actually
Calmer.
yes, I actually have been nervous driving with certain people when they're not high. I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm just saying there's certain people I've driven with that made me nervous when I drove with them when they weren't stoned. When I drove with them when they were stoned, they drove exceptionally better because they weren't so like nervous. Anxiety wasn't through the roof. Aggressive. They were just driving like it was nothing. It was amazing. That weed has a very nice taste to it.
Yes, it does.
Very nice. Like very. I know you like your fruity strains.
I like my fruity.
You
strains.
do.
I
but
was into cheesy stuff for a while. Now
Yeah.
I'm like all about the fruity stuff.
So tell us about drinking alcohol and
Yes.
weed, Mrs. Weedman.
Well, cannabis use doesn't increase car crash risk, but drinking alcohol does, study finds. Cannabis use alone is not associated with higher odds of car accidents, according to a new study by researchers who looked at drivers who visited emergency departments. In fact, high self-reported acute cannabis use was actually associated with lower odds of a crash. Alcohol, meanwhile, whether used by itself or in combination with cannabis, showed a clear correlation with odds of a collision. To arrive at the results, researchers gathered data from emergency departments in Denver, Colorado, Portland, Oregon, Sacramento, California. They obtained drivers' blood and measured it for THC and metabolites, recorded alcohol levels as measured by a breathalyzer or in the course of clinical care, and conducted interviews with the drivers. While most legalization advocates don't dispute that cannabis can impair a driver's ability to safely operate a car, the new study found that the mere use of cannabis did not correlate to higher rates of motor vehicle collisions. Cannabis alone was not associated with the higher odds of collision, while acute alcohol use alone and combined use of alcohol and cannabis were both independently associated with higher odds, authors wrote. In light of the results, the 9-author research team concluded that THC levels are a less than reliable indicator of driving risk, suggesting that a better test would be measuring actual impairment. As for DUI limits on THC, the study says that using strict cutoffs of drug levels to gauge the influence of cannabis use on driving remains complex from a scientific and legal perspective, as the implication of measured levels are complicated by use, time, and means of measurement, and regular cannabis use patterns. Authors of the study, published in the April 2024 issue of the journal Accident Analysis and Prevention, represented a range of institutions, including the Oregon Health and Science University, the University of Colorado School of Medicine, University of California, Davis, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, which also funded the study, Portland State University, and others. As more states have considered legalizing cannabis in recent years, many have expressed concerns that the policy change could lead to higher rates of use by drivers and, in turn, pose a greater risk to public safety. But research shows the relationship between cannabis use and impaired driving isn't as simple as it might seem. A study published in 2019, for example, concluded that those who drive at the legal THC limit, which is typically between 2 to 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood, were statistically no more likely to be involved in an accident than people who hadn't used cannabis. Last summer, a congressional report for a Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development and Related Agencies bill said that the House Appropriations Committee continues to support the development of an objective standard to measure marijuana impairment and a related field sobriety test to ensure highway safety. Good luck with that. In 2022, Senator John Hickenlooper, so I like that name, Hickenlooper. He sent a letter to the Department of Transportation seeking, isn't that funny? Seeking an update on the status of a federal report into research barriers that are, I think I've got the giggles for a minute.
Hinkelschmidt gotcha?
Hickenlooper.
Hinkenlooper?
Hickenlooper.
Hinkenlooper?
Hickenlooper. Hickenlooper. All right. There was a federal report into research barriers that are inhibiting the development of a standardized test for marijuana impairment on the roads. The department was required to complete the report under a large-scale infrastructure bill that President Joe Biden signed, but it missed a deadline and wasn't clear on how much longer the project would take. Earlier this month, scientists said they've identified an alternative way to test for recent cannabis use that's significantly more accurate than standard THC blood tests and are actively working to build on that research. The Congressional Research Service determined in 2019 that while marijuana consumption can affect a person's response times and motor performance, studies of the impact of marijuana consumption on a driver's risk of being involved in a crash have produced conflicting results. With some studies finding little or no increased risk of a crash from marijuana usage. Hang on, drink 1 second.
Salute. You only had like one sentence left.
Okay. Another study this is a lot of studies on this. Another study from 2022 found that smoking CBD-rich cannabis had no significant impact on driving ability, despite the fact that all study participants exceeded the limit for THC in their blood. Interesting developments that we will continue to follow as news evolves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. What's that song you were making? You were talking about Hinkenschmidt?
Hinkenblopper, Looper.
What's that
Hinkenlooper.
song? It was John
Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. Your name is my name.
There
too.
it is, right there. That
Whenever
song.
we go out, people always shout, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. La 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 la.
I remember that
Why
song.
do I know that?
I knew you would
that?
because that's something that you probably sung a bazillion times when you were a kid. I knew the song. I just couldn't remember the name, like how it went in order.
Wow.
Right.
That's bizarre.
But I was just saying, though, because Hinkelberger, Hinkelmora, Hinkelschminkel kind of got that.
Hinkenlooper.
Looper Hinkel. So that
Hickenlooper.
Hookalooper?
Like chicken looper.
Hickenlooper.
Hickenlooper. That was it, right?
That name made me think of that song.
I can't see.
That name made me think of the song. So
Hickenlooper, where are you? Yes, Hickenlooper.
Hookalooper?
Like it phonetically, it looks like chicken looper.
Oompa Loompa?
Yeah, that too.
So Arkansas,
oh my Lord.
So proud of Arkansas. Their medical marijuana program since launch has done $1 billion since first dispensary opened in 2019. Arkansas, just medical, $1 billion so far. It's not a populated in medical. Probably, I don't know how many medical patients are in Arkansas, but proud of you, Arkansas. And there's more coming. So pretty good. 2023 was $283 million. 2022 was $276 million. In 2019, there was $120 million done. More than 97,300 patients have registered with the State Department of Health since January of 89,855. So in January 2023. So they're going up. They're not even at 100,000. You guys smoke you some weed in fucking Arkansas. Good for you. Hopefully you get home grow. Hopefully it goes recreational. And if it doesn't, you should just be able to grow your own. And you might already be able to. I don't know. New Hampshire House Subcommittee taxed towards more traditional marijuana sale model, risking pushback from governor. No, push him back. You voted him in. Ohio Cannabis Regulatory released adult use industry draft rules. Interesting. For new dispensaries in the state, the application will cost $5,000 for an adult use or dual use license. License renewals will be priced at $200,000 for level 1 cultivators, $50,000 for cannabis processors, and $20,000 for level 2 cultivators and cannabis testing labs. That's just a start. So more to come on that as more and more of the licensing goes through. Texas Attorney General Paxton sues cities over marijuana decriminalization. There's 5 cities in Texas that decriminalize weed. Austin, Texas was one of them. I remember when they did it, it was all over the news. It was great. And there's 4 other cities, and he's trying to sue them to try to get them over this. So I think it's bullshit. If they want to decriminalize in their city, I think it should just be decriminalized across the whole entire country. But if they want to do it and you're trying to sue them, you should be voted out there, Attorney General, or kicked out. something. Let's see here. FDA nods to hemp seed meal use for laying hens. Signaling feed breakthrough. Maine lawmakers urge DOJ to stop illegal cannabis farms allegedly Chinese. South Carolina bill challenges marijuana smell searches. New Hampshire eyes private cannabis market, like we just talked about, and trying to beat up the governor. Connecticut faces cannabis flower shortage again amid rising demands. And you know what sucks is because there's a lot of excess weed in California, and we'll read this a little bit further on, but there's abundance of weed in New York right now, and there's no dispensaries to sell it to. So Connecticut, your neighbor below you could be sending you 235,000 pounds of weed that's just sitting there. Terrible. More states seek to ban synthesized cannabinoids. South Dakota with their House bill. Florida, Arizona, Missouri. More states trying to ban synthesized cannabinoids, not cannabinoids that come from the plant. Thank goodness. What else? Because you can grow Delta 8. There is a little bit found in the plant. You just got to take a lot. But you could eventually breed a plant that gets good percentages if you did it right. And it's lesser intoxication than Delta 9. It's a milder high.
Head high. Yeah.
Right. Which is that kind of what some people want. Maybe we want to be getting this paranoia that people are getting lately.
Right.
What did we read last week?
Well, they do talk about more of a CBD rich or other cannabinoid
Right.
rich
But
strain for people with mental health disorders.
But even like a Delta 8,
Right.
that's supposed to be less of a high.
Right, because it would be more CBD.
Delta
Not
8,
even, just Delta
it's
8.
their own cannabinoid. It comes from the hemp plant,
Right.
or come from the cannabis plant. It's just been bred out. And you can breed it back. There's very minute traces of it. You can breed a plant just for that. Eventually, you'd have to really make it. You know, like to get to that higher percent, at least 1-2%. It's gonna take some time, but you could do it. Excuse me. Here's something cool. Senators Fetterman and Warren lead charge for complete descheduling of marijuana. It's going to be a long shot. I'm trying to get Biden on board. Who knows? But we'll see if this happens. New Kentucky marijuana bill. Guess the name. HB 420. Trying to legalize adult use, period. Go straight. Go straight. Do both.
Kentucky?
Yeah, but it's facing a lot of challenges already. You got to let things take its course.
Someone's there.
Someone's
fighting.
trying it.
Someone's trying.
Right. But you got to let nature take its course a little bit. I mean, most states start med. They're going to give it a shot. If it works, then they'll listen. I think it's amazing. I wish they would have done that to begin with. The governor is the one who voted it in for med. So, I mean, you never know what could happen. But I would just say some of these states are not going to be ready to do like that. I think it's amazing, though. Should happen. New York has a weed disaster.
You know that.
Can't get a fucking... Well, someone put a lawsuit again to hold licenses up. It's just so stupid. I think they're going to not let it happen, though. But Virginia's approach, though, to their cannabis laws and their cannabis market is going to mirror alcohol, they're saying. I hope not. Florida and Hawaii, patients' concerns and legislative efforts. Florida, like I said, is trying to do away with Delta 8. It is going to go probably on the November ballot. So we'll see. And then Hawaii's legislators considering marijuana legalization bill will focus on law enforcement and establishment of Hawaii's cannabis authority. So we'll see what happens there. Legal marijuana sales in Missouri will bring in nearly $20 million to support veterans in the fiscal year. Sweet. Good for you, Missouri. Colorado Tourism Office now listing cannabis activities. So much room for activities. Cool. I love it. South Carolina senators fall short of supermajority vote to advance medical marijuana legalization. You need 28 votes. You need 2/3. They only got 25. They needed 3 more. 3. Come on. Do some back alley deals with some of these senators, man, and get them on board. Come on. You've done it before. Do it for marijuana. Let's do it for marijuana. South Carolina. So when we go to that state, we don't get arrested.
Okay.
Lawmakers want answers from Attorney General about Chinese ties to illicit weed farmers. There's a lot. All 50 senators are asking why. There's Oklahoma was bad, Maine's bad, California. There's a lot of states, so everyone's trying to find out why this is happening. Man, traditional market will always win in the end. Outlaws, baby. Cut and go. Cut and go. Where are we here? Rescheduling coalition spokesman predicts DEA announcement by the end of March. And I just read another article about an hour ago that the DEA is basically like from now could happen or by the end of March. Like but the next 4 to 8 weeks, we can have some kind of rescheduling, which I don't want to happen. I just want it totally off. But they're saying, dangling the cheese again, it could happen pretty soon, within the next week or by the end of March. So still, we'll see what happens. How do we save the cannabis industry?
Oh, let me get my glasses on. Hold on. I'm ready. All right. There's a way that this big change, this could really do a doozy, right? All right. There are many. I'm pretty baked. Are you Mr. Weedman?
I'm high.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do this?
No, I got
you
it.
got it?
I got it.
All right.
Got my hair behind my ears. I'm got my glasses on. All right, I'm ready.
Can you see?
I know I can't really see.
Can you see?
No.
Can you see?
There are many interwoven issues that make up the problems within the cannabis space, from oversupply to environmental factors. As someone who has covered weed for almost a decade, I sometimes wonder how many of them can be solved by opening the state borders. Interstate commerce would mean California-grown sour diesel could finally legally make it to New York, and states could export flower grown in desirable landscapes to other states with legalized weed. Idaho harvests 1/3 of all potatoes, and 60% of U.S. citrus comes from California. Cannabis could be the same, and California farmers are ready. Many cannabis businesses would benefit from the ability to work across state lines, and the impact might ripple beyond just the industry. Kim Stuck of Ally Consulting shared her views in a statement sent to Green State. Obviously, if states ship cannabis products into other state markets, brand footprints and product consistency might grow. Farmers growing in saturated markets like California would also benefit. Meanwhile, Connecticut cannabis dispensaries are in a drought. Sending extra weed where it's needed might solve a lot of problems, and not just financial ones. Growing cannabis outdoors can be the most sustainable option. Currently, cannabis cultivators are legally required to grow within state lines, even if the climate isn't copacetic, leading operations indoors. Outdoor biodynamic cultivation in the appropriate climate uses fewer resources than indoor cultivation. Consider the energy output of lights and HVAC alone. Additionally, places like California offer a complete natural environment ideal to cultivate premium buds. Another longtime Emerald Triangle farmer, John Casale of Huckleberry Hill Farms, pointed out that Northern California legacy cultivators hold proprietary genetics that could become nationwide commodities with the opening of state borders. Small farmers have come to understand that the real value lies in the rare legacy genetics. It has also come to our attention that the stories that helped create this multi-billion-dollar industry have great value, Casale said to Green State. Interstate commerce would only help educate the consumer and expose them to more of the Emerald Triangle magic that has forever found its way across state lines, whether legal or not. What would it take to get interstate cannabis? Rescheduling alone wouldn't make it all right to ship into new state markets, but it may help cannabis brands get one step closer. States have started taking interstate commerce into their own hands with bills, setting themselves up for cannabis exports and imports in advance of eventual rescheduling. Washington Governor Jay Inslee signed in May 2023 an interstate commerce bill, and it opened the doors for the state. Just south in Oregon, Governor Kate Brown signed bill in June of 2023 that would allow the export of cannabis to other state programs with a shift in federal law. California Governor Newsom did the same, but with a clause that requires imports to meet or exceed all packaging regulations and safety requirements. This brings into question the regulation of products and compliance in general. While the world awaits for federally mandated rescheduling, Republican Congressman Dave Joyce is hoping to jumpstart ahead with the States 2.0 Act in early December. Section 3 of the bill outlines interstate commerce from tracking systems to transit vehicle protection from local police, and it deschedules the plant rather than moving it to a Schedule 3. However, the bill is early in its process. In the event of DEA rescheduling, regulation would defer to the FDA. For those to get the FDA stamp, their compliance becomes managed by the Fed. The State 2.0 Act lays out a framework, but it is yet to be determined how cannabis tracking would be managed in the event of rescheduling. To limit illegal activity, regulators would need to implement a travel licensing system that tracks cannabis products and confirms that they are part of a licensed program rather than some unregulated facility. Stuck explained. A system would confirm that only licensed products make it into new state markets. There is so much to consider, but the most prominent factor is that moving product across state lines would be a major coup for struggling legacy operators in California and dispensaries like those in Connecticut dealing with shortages. Interstate commerce is a growing buzzword amid rescheduling, as well as supply and demand problems. The interstate process would require even more bud bureaucracy, but with a look at how it might benefit industry operators, consumers, and the planet, it may be worth it in the long run. Yeah, I think it would be phenomenal.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing.
I think it would just free up the market.
It would just be like alcohol, where breweries and were crossing state lines. The brewery I worked for before they opened up a brewery here in Illinois were crossing straight lines, and you have to work with a distributor, and then the distributor would deal with it. So that's eventually going to happen. If it doesn't, it's stupid for the whole industry not to make it happen, to fight for it to happen.
Right.
More tax dollars. People have get their hands on different strains they want to smoke medically or recreationally, and then you know what. The whole thing about it is the standardization of what each state has to do. So there'll have to be some kind of standardization throughout the whole country to be distributed to every state, or whatever states allow that to happen. Because some states aren't going to want it. Because some of the cultivators here aren't going to want it. Because it's competition. Unless they have their hands and be able to distribute it. So like a cultivator here that has distribution would work out deals with cultivators in California or Michigan or wherever they want to buy their weed from, and make a deal and say, we'll be your distributor here. Now, that's actually not a bad idea, because then they're not losing. They can make deals with 10, 15 different other extractors and cultivators and say, okay, I'll bring these 10 lines in, and then I can distribute. So I'm not losing any money from because I could see that happening. They'll be pissed because it's a lot of money you'll lose. Because if you're bringing outside product from different states, that means the cultivators here in this state
You're not promised business.
They're going to lose 20, 30% maybe. People love California weed. People love Michigan hash. You know? So, I mean, if someone was sending here Michigan hash for the price point too, holy fuck.
Right.
I mean, I'm buying Michigan hash all day. You know, no offense, Illinois, but I'm buying Michigan hash all day. So... also packaging, how would you do that? You know, maybe you just buy bulk and then you package it in your own, you white label it, packaged and delivered by so-and-so company, grown by so-and-so company in California. You're just buying mass pounds of it and sent to you over in turkey bags, you know, and that might be a way to do it. So a cultivator here can buy, like, look at, if I was a cultivator in Connecticut and I'm in my like 50th day of growing and have nothing to sell, but I can buy 300 pounds of weed from a couple of cultivators in Michigan and a couple of cultivators in California, man, I'm fucking banking until my grow is done. Then I'm not buying anything for a hot minute. Maybe, and that's good. You buy when you're low, sell when you're high. I don't know. Just my idea. I don't know. Maybe it's the cherry I'm smoking right now. Who knows? International news. Village Farm starts building cannabis facility for Netherlands pilot program. So strange. They should be like growing weed like crazy there. Malta's first legal cannabis club begins operating. It felt like forever ago we were talking about Malta, and their first cannabis club begins operating. So, Spain's medical cannabis law to be ready in coming months, says health minister. Cool, because the whatchamacallit clubs are going nowhere. The cannabis clubs, they said. Germany's coalition government reaches final deal on marijuana legalization bill, with vote to set for this month. Germany, let's go. We've been hearing about you forever, too. Jeez. Ireland government approves a 9-month delay on cannabis legalization vote. 9 months delay. Come on now. I thought this was a cool article. The Massachusetts Cannabis Company. Are you good?
I'm here. I'm here.
So,
are you good?
I thought this was cool about their recycling program, but what they were using to do to sell, to make stuff, I thought was pretty interesting.
Okay.
Tell us about Ms. Weedman.
Right. A Massachusetts cannabis company is trying to help protect the environment by finding new life for the individual packages used in the industry. Treehouse Craft Cannabis, which has dispensaries in 2 locations with a third on the way, introduced its new recycling program last year as a way to cut down on plastic waste. To date, the company has collected more than 400 pounds of material for recycling.
400 pounds.
Yeah, crazy. Representing thousands of customers participating in the program.
That's dope.
Millions of these products are being sold annually. Turnbull, the company's co-CEO, said, "It's not quite the bottle bill, which allows consumers to recycle bottles and cans for a rebate, but it is an initiative to share our values and to set it right." In Massachusetts, like other states where it's legal, the packaging of weed is strictly regulated. Products must be packaged in child-proof, opaque containers with plain designs and clear labeling, from larger amounts of flour down to individual pre-rolled joints. Because of this, the industry produces a lot of small plastic containers, which frequently end up in the garbage. The issue was brought up in a staff meeting by one of the company's employees, who was concerned about how it was affecting the environment. Turnbull explained that he and his co-CEO, Wes Ritchie, are passionate about their values and try to stay true to those values with their business decisions. So it made sense to come up with a plan to change things. This industry is still in its infancy, but if you don't set the parameters correctly in the beginning, you're going to end up with a much larger problem at the end, Turnbull said. It took about a year to research the problem and make sure they were following all of the state regulations, and in May, the company launched its new recycling program. Customers can bring in any used plastic, glass, or metal cannabis container, regardless of where the product was purchased. And in return, they receive a $4 pre-roll.
Genius.
So smart.
Genius.
Then the company sorts all of the donated packaging and sends it on to a recycling company, which turns the reused plastic into new packaging that Treehouse Craft uses for their own pre-rolls produced at their farm in Coleraine. Perfect. The plastic is also used for other products sold such as flip-flops and plastic trays. And Turnbull said the company has even put out a call for artists to create a public art installation from the recycled materials. While they're still in their first year of the program, Ritchie and Turnbull are already hoping to help spread it to others in the cannabis industry. They've spoken with the owners of other dispensaries who have been interested in implementing similar programs, and they are also advocating at the state level for the Cannabis Control Commission to consider encouraging recycling among cannabis companies, with generally positive feedback so far. Ritchie said Treehouse wants to plant the flag on recycling, taking the first step to make it easier for other companies to follow. He said they've done extensive research and consideration for the program, down to ensuring that their plastic packaging and labels have the same melting point to make them easier to recycle. It doesn't have to be perfect, because right now it's a disaster. We're trying to make it better, he said. We're really trying to also signal that the barrier of entry is not that high. If you are a company that cares about this, you can participate too and still have a positive impact in the right direction.
Sweet.
I think that's great.
Yep. Guess what? You go again.
And again, right away?
Again, right away.
Okay. Florence Pugh says her mom disappeared for an hour at Oscar's party to get high with Snoop Dogg. Florence Pugh's mom had an unlikely bonding experience with Snoop Dogg at the Oscars in 2020 while playing a game of true and false with some of her Dune Part 2 castmates on Jimmy Kimmel Live recently. The actress confirmed that her mom, Deborah Mackin, checked off Get High with Snoop Dogg on her bingo card at the Academy Awards ceremony.
It's awesome.
After recovering from laughter, Pugh, 28, told host Jimmy Kimmel that her parents were her escorts to the show when she was nominated for her role in Little Women. We went to the after parties, and my mom disappeared for an hour, Pugh said, as the audience exploded in laughter. She came back. She had gotten high with Snoop Dogg. Pugh then recalled running into Snoop at a party for her latest film, Oppenheimer, in 2023. I was like, Hugh, you got my mom high. And he was like, where is she? The actress continued, mimicking his excited tone. Pugh said Snoop then insisted that they send her mom a video. So this is coming from her. So I sent my mom a video of Snoop Dogg being like, where are you, baby? I miss you. Pugh said.
That's awesome. Two former NFL stars hint at presidential bid with weed platform. An oldie but a goodie. You know who this is.
Who?
Jim McMahon of the Chicago Bears. He's a big cannabis. We've read about him before on the show.
Do the Super Bowl.
It's coming up this weekend too, so perfect time to sing that song. So yeah, him and Kyle Turley is his running mate, and their whole platform is to run on weed. Jim, if you want to come on the Weedman 420 Chronicles and talk about your presidential run, you can have my platform. Come on and hang out with me, and you and Kyle Turley, you both can come out and talk about advocacy, talk about your presidential run. If anybody knows Jim McMahon who wants to come to the Weedman 420 Chronicles.
I was in 8th grade for the Super Bowl shuffle.
So was I.
And I know you were. We were in 8th grade, but you were in New York and I was in Chicago.
I actually was in Florida. I just moved to Florida that year. Year.
Oh my God. So the guys, like, we got like it was a big, exciting, like probably the Friday before the Super Bowl.
Oh,
it was
everybody
like
was singing
Bears
that song.
parties.
They were making
and
fun
so
of
the
it.
boys were all doing the Super Bowl shuffle, and they all had their Bears jerseys on. Oh my God, they had to like act it out. Oh my gosh.
So if anybody knows, I mean, if he ever came on the show, it'd be great. But come on, Jim, come smoke. I'll get you baked. We'll have some fun smoking out and talking about weed and talking about you and Kyle. Come on, come and hang with me. If anybody knows him, his agent, anybody, Bueller, come in the basement. Let's see what you got. Brooklyn Nets and New York Liberty ink first NBA CBD deal. Good for them. Good stuff. It's awesome to hear that you're seeing more and more. NFL 2, we just read about it, talking about CBD to help and study it to help with the concussion syndrome and injuries too. So more and more are getting into the cannabis realm or the CBD realm, and I think it's wonderful. I mean, I like CBD. I think it's great. Mm-hmm. Helps take all the pains away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I'd like to thank Midwest Terps for throwing us a bud. Getting us really nice and high.
That was very good.
Yeah, it was good weed. I'm not. That's not a nighttime strain. I mean, that's not like going to bed strain though. No, not at all.
Maybe not.
No, not for me. It is a great daytime strain.
Yeah, I don't think I've sat still for.
I like doing the show on that strain, so I might have to find some beans and grow it one day, or just get a couple more joints from Midwest.
I could garden. I could definitely do yard work.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, we were Stony Baloney for a minute there, but I mean, to be able to get up and move around is perfect on that. It's great weed. Mm-hmm. The taste and the smell. One thing I have to say, I'm not going to show you the label because they don't. I used to work for this brewery, and I thoroughly enjoy this drink that they make, and I have since they created this. Right? What do I?
Yes.
Besides, 64 to 80, ounces of water I drink? What is it? What is it? What am I thinking? 80 liters? What do I drink? How much water?
Not 80 liters.
No, not 80 liters.
I don't know. It's a big
It's big. I drink like 4 of them a day.
Yeah.
Besides water and maybe 1 or 2 beers on the weekends, I drink this by this brewery. I probably drink a 12-pack to a case a week. There's no calories, no carbs. It's a beer without malt in a bottle. But I will have to say about this. Every time I drink just their plain and I smoke, the taste of the weed is it's an explosion in my mouth. And
Is the citra hops in there?
there's different hops in there.
Yeah.
So basically what it is, it's a seltzer, a non-alcoholic seltzer with a bowl. So it's basically
It's a
water.
hop water.
Yeah, it's
There's
hot.
other hop
Yeah,
waters on
yeah,
the
those are
market.
the hop waters. They
Yeah.
call this one Hoppy Refresher. And it's just water, hops, and I think they add a little bit of like mango extract to it to accentuate the hops in there. I think they add like 3 or 4 different hops in there. Citra is one of them. I think Mosaic and Centennial. Anyway, when you smoke weed, like this strain right now that we were smoking, after I passed the joint over here, I took a sip of that. The weed flavor that it intensified in my mouth was unbelievable. I'll have to try this with just plain seltzer too, just to see if it's just the seltzer that does it or this drink. So if they ever decide to throw us some cases for the show, or
was that a little pitch?
Sure, it is.
By the way,
if you throw us
you
some
could send me
cases,
some.
yeah, you can send us like 5 cases a month. That'd be great.
keep
Just
drinking
the
it.
plain. I love the plain. I will throw you some shout outs, but I will let you know if you're ever around me and you ask me who it is. I will tell you what brewery makes this and how well it accentuates the flavor of weed. Because every time I smoke it with a different strain, I'm
Why
just like,
can't you
wow.
say the name?
Because why should I?
I always say names of other things.
That's true. I used to work for this brewery though, and then it'll give away my identity. One day I will tell the story of this brewery on this show. Trust me, I will. I want 5 free cases of this seltzer thing they make. Just kidding. Mrs Weedman,
Mr. Weedman,
that's the end of the show.
it's over.
You got anything else to say?
Drink some citra hops next time you get high. It's pretty darn good. Stay safe. There's a lot of conflict in our world right now, but there's a lot of positivity in our world right now. So be a spreader of hope and love and kindness, and discourage hatred, please. That's all.
Love y'all out there. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.